High Desert State Prison would first open its doors in 1995 and is home to approximately 1,700 inmates within the California Department of Corrections. On July 22, 2022, at approximately 7:35 p.m., officers at HDSP would respond when incarcerated individuals Joseph Gama and Alvaro Saldana would attack another incarcerated person by the name of Albert Martinez. And although Martinez would receive medical treatment almost immediately, sadly, within 20 minutes after the attack, at around 7:55 p.m., Albert Martinez would be pronounced deceased.
New tonight, 2 inmates, both from Sacramento County, killed in separate murders at California prisons. On Friday, 52-year-old Albert Martinez was attacked by 2 other inmates at High Desert State Prison in Lassen County. On Saturday at Sacramento State Prison in Folsom, 59-year-old Wayne Caskey was assaulted by 2 inmates in the prison yard. Both died before making it to a hospital. Suspects have been identified in both cases.
It is now program shutdown time, gentlemen. It is asked for your full cooperation and your full participation in shutting tonight's program down. To all my strong and striving Norteno raza, buenas noches. Gracias, mi raza. It is now.
Entire groups clashing over just whether it's a red or blue color that they're claiming.
Oh, I think that's dumb because they're fighting over a color and the Latinos are killing Latinos.
You want to come out of towners, want to come over here, you feel me? You violating us, you feel me? You can't come from out of town and try to disrespect Oakland, none of that. There's consequences to that.
There's so much violence in this area because it's the Rangers out here.
Police say another factor is that with so many Latinos moving in, they are occupying neighborhoods that have traditionally been African American.
That's a bullet right there.
And the bullets are flying. How did somebody get a gun? Is that just that easy?
Man, you got $250, I can get you a gun. Hey, Doc, you got some money, I can buy you a gun.
Police say there is no defined Norteño or Sereno territory in Oakland. Instead, gang members drive around in cars, literally hunting members.
The Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department is reviving its gang unit this summer. The move comes on the heels of 2 deadly gang-related shootings over the weekend. KCRA 3's Janet O live in Modesto with why the department's stepping up its fight against gangs now.
Well, the department recently hired 16 new deputies with more manpower. The gang unit will once again be focusing on enforcement and prevention. Neighbors in South Modesto say gang problems have become everyone's problems.
Gangs are getting really bad around here. I mean, they're targeting anybody. It's not just gangs against gangs.
David Kunkel says he and his family are afraid to go out at night, afraid to get to know the people around them.
We got a lot of grandkids and stuff, and yeah, we hear a lot of gunshots, gang activity all through Modesto. South Modesto is really bad.
It was here at this intersection a fight broke out Friday night, leaving 1 man dead and an innocent bystander injured. In West Modesto, another gang-related shooting at a birthday party.
Everybody's scared over here, me, and the neighbors over there, all this street.
To rebuild a gang unit from the ground up.
Sergeant Anthony Bajaran says budget cuts forced gang unit members back on the streets to do routine patrol work. Now with 16 deputy vacancies filled, the gang unit will be back in full swing by July. Bajaran says it's important for the gang unit to start by rebuilding relationships with known gang members.
When you build these relationships, it kind of gives you an idea of where you need to start your investigation.
But Bajaran says one of the biggest impacts the gang unit has is working on prevention with at-risk youth.
There's only so much you can do by taking a guy and putting him in jail, putting him in prison.
Now, in addition to the 16 deputies that were recently hired, the department is looking to recruit another 10 deputies in the summer to fill vacancies. Reporting live in Modesto, Janet O, KCRA 3 reports.
Janet, thank you so much.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel today. We are going to be sticking with the same theme that we followed so far in 2025. We're going to be staying with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Been covering a lot of stories out of here so far this year. Ever since this new prison reform kicked in a few years back, which, as you all know, I believe is an absolute joke. You can look into someone like a Jeff McCumber or the wonderful Governor Gavin Newsom. People's lives are at risk. It's just that simple. If you have a loved one who works at the prison or a loved one who is an inmate at the prison, they aren't safe. And when I say the prison, I mean any of these prisons that we talk about within the state of California. They are at risk. Security threat right now, I believe, would be at an all-time high. You're going to see more murders throughout this year. We've seen more murders in the past. Our story today takes place in 2022. And it's just getting more and more dangerous out there. So this particular story takes place at High Desert State Prison in the summer of 2022, in particular, July 22nd, 2022. We're going to read from an article off the CDCR's main page, and then we're going to be covering some good background information on a couple of the individuals that we talk about in this story. Really quick, if you are new to the channel, welcome. I really hope you enjoy the video. If you are someone who is a returning member, then you already know how much it means that you continue to support the channel. Whether you've watched 1 or 100 of my videos, it doesn't matter. Thank you so much, because it really, really does mean a lot. I am nothing without the people that continue to support the channel. And like I said, if you're new, also welcome and thank you for supporting. I really hope you enjoy it. Before we jump into it, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, hit the like button, hit the comment button, engage in some conversation, and lastly, hit that subscribe button. Okay, let's jump into it. On Friday, July 22nd at approximately 7:35 p.m., officers at High Desert State Prison responded when incarcerated persons Joseph Gama and Alvaro Saldana attacked incarcerated person Albert Martinez in a max security housing unit. Martinez was taken to the prison's triage and treatment area for treatment of injuries he sustained from the attack. However, he was pronounced deceased at 7:55 p.m. Gama, 24 years old, was sentenced to CDCR from Stanislaus County on June 3, 2016 to serve a 15-year sentence for assault with a firearm, inflicting great bodily injury with an enhancement for a street gang act. We got a really good story on him. He has a hell of a background story. Yeah, absolutely crazy. As well as this next guy, Saldana, 37 years old, was sentenced to CDCR on May 31st, 2011 out of Stanislaus County to serve a life with parole sentence for first-degree murder as a second striker with intentional discharge of a firearm causing great bodily injury or death. They're Norteno gang members. Just to give you an idea. Gama, you see the X14 on his neck. Saldana, when we read his personal story as well, absolutely crazy what landed him within the CDCR, but they are Norteño gang members. Martinez, the victim in this case, and the oldest member of this story, was 52 years old. He was sentenced all the way back on December 13th, 1994 from Sacramento County to serve an 18-year, 8-month sentence for 4 counts of second-degree robbery with use of a firearm, 1 count of vehicle theft, and assault with a firearm with use of a firearm. While incarcerated, Martinez was also sentenced in Kings County to serve a life with parole sentence for battery on a non-prisoner, a third strike offense. Martinez was also sentenced on February 7th, 2018 in Sacramento County for possession of a controlled substance while in jail or a prison, also an in-prison offense. And it talks about how officials had limited inmate movement on the yard. But man, to be honest, that's all just BS. As we know with this new California prison model, these attacks will happen all the time. Someone will get stabbed, someone will be killed, and it's like, okay, go back to your cell. There's not any real sort of consequences that go on. It's just kind of like what some would say, like a slap on the wrist, and then, hey, continue as normal. Life goes on. Get the deceased person out of there, pretend it didn't happen, and just, pray to God you're not the next victim, right? Or the next guard, or the next, nurse, or whoever that gets attacked just trying to do their job and earn a living. Okay, so I got really good background on Joseph Gama and Alvaro Saldana. Now, Joseph Gama, it took me a minute to double check this first story I found about him because it was only a couple years prior to this story that we're covering today. This took place in August of 2020. But in this story, his hair is a lot longer, and he actually was responsible for the killing of another inmate. So he's got 2 bodies within 2 or 3 years of these stories. And this is an article from the CDCR on August 26, 2020 at the same prison. And this is what I'm talking about. These guys are literally killing people and then allowed within, maybe they're on the max security floor, but they're still integrating, they're still communicating, they're still out mingling with other prisoners, and they're fully capable of doing this stuff again. So article August 26, 2020 about Joseph Gama. out of Susanville High Desert State Prison are investigating the death of another inmate, Juan M. Boizo, 25 years old, as a homicide. On Monday, August 24th, 2020, just after 8 p.m., Boizo was attacked and stabbed by 2 inmates in a day room. Correctional officers used 3 exact impact rounds to stop the attack. Boizo suffered numerous punctured wounds to his head and back. Jesus, that's brutal. As well as several lacerations and abrasions. He was taken by ambulance to an outside hospital for treatment. However, he succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced deceased at 9:48 p.m. on August 24th. Boizo was received from Monterey County on April 21st, 2014 to serve 12 years for second-degree robbery and a street gang act and commission of a violent felony. The suspects were identified at the time as 22-year-old Joseph Gama, he's 22 at this time, and 29-year-old Joseph B. Sua. I also put his picture up as well. They were rehoused in the short-term restricted housing unit on ADSEG status pending investigation. Correctional officers recovered 2 inmate-made weapons at the scene. This incident was being investigated by the Lassen County Sheriff's Office and HDSP's Investigative Services Unit. And it talks about what we said on our main story here. Gama was received from Stanislaus County on July 19th, 2016 to serve 15 years for assault with a firearm, inflicting great bodily injury, and a street gang act in commission of a violent felony. Sua was received from Merced County on May 2nd, 2019 to serve 7 years for possession of a controlled substance in a jail or prison, which was his second strike. Now, I was able to find Michael Boizo's picture. I put that up for you guys, and a statement from his brother Juan Boizo on the GoFundMe. This is kind of it's just sad when you read it. It just shows you the impact on these family members that these jail attacks and these jail murders have. Because I think sometimes, even as content creators, you can be guilty of it. You constantly are reading these stories and you lose sight of the fact that these people are human. These people have, not that they're human, but their lives matter. And this is what I'm saying when I talk about what's wrong with California. Is these people have, whether they're incarcerated or not, their lives matter. They have loved ones. They have kids. They have parents. It's just, they have brothers and sisters. And yes, I get it. You know what? Prison's a dangerous place. Don't commit crimes if you don't want to go to prison. That's the risk you take. I agree with that. But that does not mean they deserve to die, especially in this way. And this is what Michael Boizo's brother wrote, his brother Juan. Quote, Monday evening around 8 p.m., my brother was brutally attacked by 2 men. The 2 men couldn't face him, so they decided to attack him from the back. They used homemade knives to repeatedly stab his back, abdomen, and his head. Although he fought to stay alive until they got him to a hospital, Monday night, my brother passed away because he was a victim of a homicide that occurred 6 hours away from family. There will be fees and expenses just to get him home. After his memorial, I need to get a good lawyer to open a case for him. The way my brother died was cruel, and the people responsible for his death need to be prosecuted and properly punished. Even the smallest donations help. Thank you, and God bless your family. Sad, man. Really, really sad. Okay, now, I feel like this is some of the best background information I've been able to get on somebody. Alvaro Saldana. He's got a hell of a story what landed him here. He's a Norteno gang member out of Turlock, California. Absolutely crazy, the story. Him and another guy, they actually killed a somewhat famous local rapper who was also a Norteno gang member, and you could tell the music was picking up. He was kind of trying to get out of the gang, and they were beefing. And Saldana and another gentleman decided to kill this guy. And there were some kind of questions because this guy's an active Norteno gang member, and Alvaro Saldana and this other guy killed this victim, who's this rapper by the name of Roger Villanueva, without the permission. Well, then they could be in turn looked at and possibly marked for getting killed or getting removed or being X'd out of the gang. And they basically argued that, oh no, he was already starting to leave the gang. He was already kind of one foot in, 1 foot out in it. And he was hanging out with dropouts and supporting dropouts. And we're going to get into this right here. So this is an article from April 5th of 2011 while the court proceedings are going on. 2 mothers sat on opposite sides of a courtroom. One was waiting for justice for her slain son, and the other was waiting to hear if her 2 sons would ever know freedom again. Both sides were surrounded by family and friends, and the tension in the courtroom was palpable as everyone waited for the final word to come down. And when the guilty verdict was announced, there were 2 mothers left in tears, one in relief and one in despair. After 5 weeks of testimony and arguments from both the prosecution and defense, a Stanislaus County jury of 9 women and 3 men took about 2.5 hours to reach a guilty verdict for brothers Raymond Remo Gutierrez and Alvaro Tito Saldana. They're brothers. Isn't that crazy? For the murder of 26-year-old Roger Villanueva on May 25th, 2008 in Turlock. Gutierrez, 31, and Saldana, 26, both of Turlock, were each found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder with firearm and gang enhancements. The jury agreed with the prosecution's claim that the murder of Villanueva was done to benefit the Norteño criminal street gang. Both defendants waived their rights to another jury trial in regards to prior offenses and instead opted for a court trial. Scheduled for 1:30 p.m. today, Deputy District Attorney Thomas Brennan, who prosecuted the case for the Stanislaus County District Attorney's Office, said the two men have prior strike convictions, which could leave them facing a minimum of 80 to life behind bars. A sentencing hearing will be scheduled at a later date. Villanueva was a former Norteño gang member who had distanced himself from the gang by moving to Arizona. His return trip to Turlock, this is always when they get him, man. It's like that famous Boozy interview on Vlad TV says, as a rapper, and this guy wasn't even that famous, but as a rapper, you are more likely to get killed in your own city than anywhere else. Came back to Turlock to perform at a local rap concert and attend a memorial service for Moses Rodriguez, who was shot to death in 2006. Well, that rap concert and all that coming home and all that reunion stuff would be tragically cut short. It was at a memorial barbecue for Rodriguez that Villanueva would cross paths with Gutierrez and Saldana for the final time, but it was hardly the first meeting between the three men. At one time, they all ran together as part of the Norteño gang present in Turlock's west side, but as time went by, Villanueva's focus was less on the gang and more on his aspirations of rap stardom under the moniker of Smoke the Villain. As a result, Villanueva increasingly found himself on the outs with the gang, especially because he continued friendships with individuals who had dropped out of the gang or had fallen out of favor with them. Confrontation between the three men were increasing, and at a wedding reception in Hillmar, it erupted into violence. During a melee between guests and wedding attendants, Villanueva came to the aid of an individual who had been labeled, quote, a degenerate by the gang, and in the process, he knocked out Saldana. Brennan said aiding someone who was on the outs with the gang was tantamount to committing, quote, an act of treason in the eyes of the gang. It was this fight and the perceived disrespect that it caused that the prosecution said spurred the two brothers to exact revenge on Villanueva. The men next saw each other on the afternoon of May 25, 2008, at the Angeles Street Barbecue, and within a short time, Villanueva would be lying dead from multiple gunshot wounds. The jury was presented with two theories as to how Villanueva was fatally shot behind a vacant dwelling. The defense said Gutierrez accidentally shot Villanueva when he was kicked in the chin, and the gun, which was modified into an automatic, went off repeatedly. That's like a switch. If you don't know what that is, look that up. They put a switch on the gun. The defense claimed it was Villanueva who brought the gun to the gathering and that Gutierrez got a hold of it during a struggle. Defense attorney Frank Carson also said shooting Villanueva was an act of self-defense. The prosecution would differ, presented an entirely different account of the fateful events. They said it was planned for Saldana to lure Villanueva into the backyard with the promise of settling their dispute. The prosecution said Villanueva was ambushed by Gutierrez, who shot him multiple times, including one at close range to the head. Gutierrez and Saldana then fled the crime scene following the shooting and were apprehended weeks later in the Sacramento area. The car they used had been set on fire. A major component of the trial was the gang enhancements. That's what we always talk about on this channel. The district attorney's office was tasked with proving that the murder was committed to aid the Norteño gang. Though not approved beforehand by the gang, Brennan said the killing of Villanueva was ruled justified by the gang because it would send a message to all gang members not to help those who had fallen out of favor with the gang. After the verdict was given, Brennan had his own message for the gang members. This is the prosecutor. I want all gang members to know that we will continue to vigorously and mercilessly pursue those in their ranks who choose to live the violent gang lifestyle that this community is all too familiar with. Oftentimes, innocent bystanders are caught in the gang crossfire. Oftentimes, rival gang members fall in a hail of gunfire. Other times, gang members turn on one of their own, which happened in this case. The gang prosecutors in Stanislaus County do not pick and do not choose their victims for prosecution. Our office values all human life and will continue to bring justice to the community through vigorous prosecution of gang members and associates. It's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy. And they talked about how when the verdicts were read out and everything, sobs could be coming out from the courtroom. A lot of emotion in this case. A lot of big players in this case. These guys were kind of heavy hitters. You got a somewhat locally famous rapper. So a lot of eyeballs were on this case. So that article, that was going on in April of 2011, early April. The brothers did end up getting found guilty. And then in June of 2011, each brother got 80 years to life. And then Saldana ended up committing this murder in 2022 with Joseph Gama. So there you guys have it. Another one. This one was really crazy. Reading these guys, the people who committed this murder in High Desert, their backgrounds were violent. and their backgrounds were that of a gang member. And just goes to show you, man, it's not worth it. If you are someone who's struggling with whatever, reach out, get the help. Because if you are someone in the streets, whether that's in a gang, drugs, whatever, most of the time it's just going to lead right down a similar road. So anyway, much love, much appreciation. Until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.